It's not surprising that Gen Alpha is the most chronically online. Parents have been putting iPads in front of their kids since they were old enough to even hold one, or just hooking it to the back of the seat if they couldn't. And the schools have also been putting them in front of screens for 8 hours a day since the pandemic. And it's because of this that Gen Alpha will probably be the most broke generation. And it's not just because that they've graduated into an incredibly crappy economy. I mean, millennials already did that, kiddos, get in line. TikTok and other social media platforms have convinced younger people to spend more on luxury at a much more earlier age. For prior generations, finding dupes of high-end products was kind of the coolest thing. It was the life hack. But nowadays, people are becoming brand whore trend zombies at an unfathomably young age. The only acceptable shoes are $300 Jordans, and the only acceptable moisturizer is something that costs as much as their family's weekly grocery budget. I mean, Sephora used to be a place where 20-somethings wandered in after their first corporate job, and now it's essentially like an elementary school field trip. And that doesn't mean that cringy boy moms get off easy as well, because boy trends may not be as ubiquitous, but they are still driving an entire identity of young people online as well. For boys, they simply just trade $60 moisturizers for whatever sneakers a member of the FaZe clan is wearing, or they have to have the same gaming setup as their favorite Twitch streamer. And this isn't just talk. Data actually shows that Gen Z heavily uses social media to shop, and this trend will only get worse with the next generation. iPad babies were consuming content before they're even able to consume solid foods, which has intrinsically linked their entire identity, their entertainment, and their lifestyle all around the almighty screen. But the thing is, the biggest influencers and creators online across all social media platforms make money by selling their audience crap, either indirectly through ads on the platform or directly through affiliate marketing and directly shilling crap to their audience. And for the entities making money off this reality, the influencers, corporations who make the product, or social media platforms who make money on advertising, the rule is simple. Start young and sell forever. Why wait until someone is actually financially responsible for themselves to develop brand loyalty when you can get them hooked at age 11 and convince kids to bully their parents into getting them a dozen Stanley Cups that'll be thrown away a year later and 24 Labubus that'll be thrown away 4 months after that? The consumerism of young people is keeping pace with their shallow adult counterparts. It's starting a very insidious cycle very early for young people where brands are the ultimate measure of their worth. It's not enough to have a multi-step skincare routine as a tween, it has to be drunk elephant. And you can't just have a cell phone, you have to have the newest iPhone. The level of brand loyalty and recognition among younger generations is something that is completely unseen in prior generations, at least to this degree. In prior generations, you didn't dive right into high-end brands. Instead, you tried to find the best dupe or knockoff in whatever your allowance could afford, and you only graduated to name brands when you got your first big person job. Instead, kids are spending all of their parents' money on boutique high-end brands, and they're never understanding the value of a good dupe. Especially for skincare, where people will never actually see you owning the product, the insistence on brand adherence is absolutely crazy to me. Because let's be honest, the Sephora teen phenomenon isn't actually about skincare. These young folks will probably never have as good a skin as they have now. Instead, it's about identity shopping. It's about following their favorite influencers who are in turn getting commissions off of their spending habits. Influencers don't push lower-end dupes. They instead exclusively push high-cost products that they are getting for free, but younger people are never being conditioned to look for lower-cost, better-value alternatives. The same goes for designer shoes and tech for boys. It goes beyond the iPhone. If you don't have a Razer keyboard specifically, you're basically deserving of unending scorn among your school peers. The way that young people are being taught to buy things is setting up patterns that are completely unsustainable. It leads to bad decisions such as racking up credit card debt, not caring about financial stability, and generally just things that kind of keep people like me employed. Because financial literacy is increasingly becoming a dead language, like Latin or cursive. And between the screens at school and the screens at home, Gen Alpha spends every waking hour consuming content from influencers, virtual instructors, and people they've never met in real life. They spend more time each day with unknown abstract people than they spend with their own parents or with mentors or people in real life. They're being conditioned to trust people that they don't actually know, not realizing that much of the time these people are just treating them as a number on a spreadsheet. To be fair, the electronic babysitter isn't exclusive to young people. Gen X and millennials were raised on TVs, but the thing is, advertising on TV was a small break between scripted narrative content. Now the entire content is one big advertisement for a product, with sponsored ads at the bottom of the screen, and unskippable ads in between that. And on top of that, TVs are essentially glued to a young person's hand 24/7. And what's funny is that the For You page is essentially the Gen Z and Gen Alpha equivalent of grandma's beloved home shopping network, only with teenagers as the hosts. And in defense of the parents, you may think that the solution is just take away the screens, but it's not that simple. If your kid doesn't have an iPhone in middle school, their friends will look at them like they have 3 heads. And even if you do want to exercise restraint, they still will be given a web-enabled device to do their homework. And what's more depressing is that this endless marketing is really young people's only hobby. Social media is increasingly replacing hobbies like sports or hanging out outside with real friends. Younger people are increasingly homebound shut-ins, socially awkward people who exist only online. But these platforms, which are purporting to show hobbies, are mostly just showing glorified wish lists. They're just shopping content. Every scroll is a micro-advertisement disguised as lifestyle content. Every influencer is like a QVC sales rep with a ring light. And for a lot of young people, going out to buy their favorite influencers' recommended name brand crap is often the only time they really go outside other than going to school. It's a grim reality, but it's why when my niece got into book talk and wanted to read Twilight, I didn't mock her or laugh at her because, despite the questionable taste in literature, at least it got her out of the house, to a bookstore, to buy something, to then read in the store. Yeah, it's still consumerism, but at least it's in service to an actual hobby. So let's forecast a little and take a guess at what Gen Alpha's future looks like. As they reach adulthood in a weak economy, they'll probably fall back on what they know, which is using name brands to define their identity and boost their self-worth. Because Lord knows they won't be able to own anything of substance like a house or a car. It'll all be too financially out of reach. So instead, they'll have to fill the void created by the unending nagging voice in your head that tells you to slam dunk on your peers, not with a stable career or a house to compare yourself to, but with material crap. Younger folks will be increasingly relegated to living with their parents or a bunch of roommates because of the increasing housing costs and stagnating wages, and having been conditioned their whole life to spend money exclusively on designer sneakers, clothes, tech, skincare, and more, what little money they could try to put away for a house or for retirement will be eaten up by microtrends and the latest viral widget. Or worse, with no spare money to throw at chasing trends, they'll just rack up credit card debt because it's a full-time job staying broke out here, and they've been raised not just as consumers, but as hyper-consumers. Conditioned to believe that self-worth comes from their belongings and their name brands and not their skills. So we'll have 2 whole generations that know the name of most luxury brands but don't know how to budget. A swath of people who know the latest tech but not the basics of financial literacy. It's a financially fatal mindset, but that's what happens when a generation is raised online in a digital mall disguised as social media. That's all I have for you today. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe for more.